Successful conclusion of power reforms has boosted stocks exposed to the sector, with the likes of Transnational Corporation of Nigeria, Transcorp, now trading at multi-year highs. Now, the conglomerate has seen a phenomenal rise in its share price following the purchase of power assets from the federal government this year, and says it plans to do a lot more to increase shareholders' value. Now, for an update on the company's activities going forward, Obina Ufudo, CEO of Transcorp, joins me now in the studio for more on that. Thank you so much, Obina, for taking the time out to join us. Now, let me start, but I'm sure you're very much aware of the way Transcorp share price has been advancing almost on a daily basis. We're looking at the share price just shy of 4 naira at the moment, coming from where you were at the beginning of the year. How does that make you feel, and what does that say to you as a CEO of Transcorp?
Very interesting times for Transcorp and for Transcorp shareholders, you might say, but not surprising based on all of the things we've been trying to do since the beginning of the year. What it tells me is that discerning investors are beginning to take note of the work we're doing and beginning to take position for the future value that they see that we're going to be creating. These values have already started showing. For the 9 months of this year, we've made 5.1 billion naira in profits before tax. And if you compare that to the fact that we made 3.9 billion for all of last year, I think it's a pointer for discerning investors, and therefore I'm not surprised at what is happening to the Transcorp share price at this time. Okay,
so would you say investors, because I know that you're holding a long-term view, especially, for instance, now your energy, what you're doing in the energy sector, the Ugeli Power Plant Limited, where you're looking at a 3 to 5 year plan for to help increase output there. Would you require your shareholders or investors to exercise a lot of patience? Because I know this is a journey, for you to not just strengthen your bottom line, but to add value to the entire businesses. So would you say investors should hold medium to long term, or preferably a long term view?
There are different kinds of investors in the market. Obviously, they have different timelines when they make investments. But in terms of Transcorp as a business, we take long term views when we invest in sectors. For the power sector that you've referred to specifically, in the short run, there are gains to be made. And also in the long run, there is also much more to be made. In the short run, we took over the plant November 1 of this year, and there was about 160 megawatts of production from the plant. What we know for now, based on what we've done in the last few days, is that by next year, we would be able to increase this power output to 650 megawatts in the very least. Now that's about...
Sorry, but when you say next year, first quarter, second quarter?
By August of next year, we would have attained a minimum of 650 megawatts. Okay. Now that's like 5 times what we met on ground. In the long run, over the next 3 to 5 years, our target is to take this plant to a minimum of 1,500 megawatts. So whether you're a short-term investor or a long-term investor, there is gain to be made by investing in Transcorp at this time.
Okay, so what would your bottom line look like then? But perhaps that would be somewhere around full year or third quarter, looking at your third quarter results. And do you have figures in mind that investors can look forward to? I mean, if you're going to boost the power plant by that much, I expect that you would also have value, more money, as it were, coming into the company.
Absolutely. But as a quoted company, this will not be the right forum to define or to give you forecast. We have actually started talking with the stock exchange, and I believe by this week or in the latest next week, we will be having a facts behind the figure where I would give you definitive numbers as to what we expect to see next year. However, I can actually tell you right now that the numbers for next year will definitely be in multiples of what we're declaring this year.
Okay, talking about your energy, what you're doing and what Transcorp is doing in the energy sector, one gets the impression that that's out of the 3 arms of business that the Transcorp operates in, that is actually going to be your key area of focus. Or are you going to give more attention to energy, or is it going to be spread equally across the board, energy, agribusiness, and your hospitality business?
Each of our businesses has a substantive CEO, and each of the CEOs have their targets, and so we are pushing on all fronts equally.
But where do you expect the most revenue to come from? Hospitality, or which of them? In
terms of revenues, we expect to make the most for next year from our energy business. We have actually taken over the plant, and so you can say that we already know what is going to happen next year. But we're making key investments in the other sectors. We have just signed an agreement with Hilton to build a new hotel, 300 rooms in Lagos. By first quarter of next year, we expect to sign another agreement to build another 300-room hotel in Port Harcourt. Now, these are more long-term in nature in terms of when to expect revenues from those businesses. So, yes, you're right. In the short term, we expect our energy business to overtake our hospitality business, which has been the traditional.
You're going to need money for
Transcorp.
all that. It sounds very ambitious. Do you have enough capital for that? Are you looking to raise more capital, or you have enough funds in your coffers?
We just raised capital this year from our shareholders through a rights issue, and we raised close to 13 billion naira. We also have a very clean balance sheet. Right now, we have almost zero debt in our books. And so between the capital that we have and our ability to raise funds from the markets, the banks, we actually are well on course to raise the funds that is required for the businesses we want to do. Okay,
are you looking to acquisitions? Perhaps not this year. I know that while you're doing a business turnaround for the whole parent company, as you were, you're also looking at perhaps strategic acquisitions. Can you let us into some of that?
Absolutely. At this time, we are looking at a number of assets to acquire in the oil and gas sector. We do have our oil block OPL 281, which we are working assiduously, and which we believe that before the end of 2014, it will come into production. But we can't rest on our oars with one oil asset. So we are actually actively looking, and we believe that before the end of next year, we would have actually acquired another interesting oil asset. Okay, now
I know that this is a bit speculative, and the market determines the share price, the advance that's coming back to the share price of Transcorp. Transcorp is currently around 3.49 naira cover. Where do you see how high do you see the stock going by the end of the year?
The share price is actually decided by the views of all the players in the market. I would not like to speculate, but I think that the intrinsic value in the stock has not been scratched at this point.
Okay, so for you, looking at both the agribusiness, energy, and power and hospitality, for you, where would you like to see investors, perhaps more investment going into?
In terms of Transcorp or in terms of the Nigerian market as a whole?
Nigerian market as a whole.
Well, there is opportunity in key sectors of the Nigerian economy. Transcorp has identified 3 of those: energy, hospitality, and agriculture. That is not to say that those are the only places where we see value in Nigeria, but those are the places where Transcorp sees the greatest value, the least competition, and the higher potential to not just make profit for our shareholders, but also to impact the Nigerian economy. So those are the areas where we are going to continue to focus.
Okay.